girl. All right. All right. Try
Oh.
now I can hear me on the screen. So that's good. Boy,
That's
we
something.
sound like a professional operation. This, by the way, I am really trying. Switch mics. Don't try to figure this thing out. Just swing that one over here. Okay. Is this one better? Turn. All right. All right. We're gonna switch them back next time. I really, really have my faith tested. My language has gotten a lot better, so I'd like to clap for that. Going to Central Virginia Counseling. My location is Wigington Road in Lynchburg. They also have the Timberlake Road branch as well. But on that journey of self-discovery and getting better, it is making a difference for me. But there are moments where I just lose my cool on certain situations. And one of them is this. Like, I have a tough time going on any vacation and fully decompressing and relaxing. First of all, this was not a vacation. I went to Disney with my kids. It was awesome. We've got some photos. My wife took more of them. Women are better at multitasking than men are. And a lot of women struggle to understand that, like, men suck at that. Like, we're just not as good. So whereas, like, watch the kids plus videotape them plus have 5,000 thoughts going through our head, just it's not how men are wired. We had a discussion in church on this. It was very insightful. There were medical experts who are legitimately qualified medical experts who brought that point up. And the women in the class all could not understand how, like, men do not have the ability to just think like that. Like, it's just not. You know, it's like when things come easy to some people, the people where it doesn't come easy, I think of myself in that category. Like, we understand what it's like to have to fight through things, but if it comes easy to you, you really don't know what it's like to be on the other side. I bring all this up to say I have a tough time just decompressing in any situation because I know stuff is hitting the fan. And part of the other reason is we're not an operation of, 35 to 40 people where we have an army of people that keep things going. We're a 5-person operation at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Hello, Edward.
Hi, Trey. I can't hear you. No. So we are a smaller operation. And because of that, you're wearing a bunch of hats. I love what we do, but the disconnection from just disconnect and relax, it's almost impossible. Again, I feel called to be doing what we're doing. So that's part of why. And I know I'm using that term somewhat liberally here in the fast lane. But like I was at a sports broadcasting conference last week. And while I was there, people discussed, I had some people, one guy who's a pretty well-known, in the industry, but he's an executive at one of the larger networks and brought up the idea of possibly working. And I just told him, I'm like, look, I'm blessed to be in a spot where I am. It's not that I wouldn't take something else or at least entertain it, but what would pull me away from where I am now is a lot harder to get to than it would have been years ago. I've got a wife. I've got 2 boys. We're in a great spot. We live 10 minutes away from my parents. We've got a great support staff around each other, wonderful people in our orbit, and a great Christian faith structure, all of which can help with our kids. I say all that to say that because of that, I'm not just jumping to go, but the reality of where other people are and where we are as well is we have to do a lot more with less. Like, we punch above our weight class, I would say tremendously well here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Like, almost everyone here does. But troubleshooting problems like this, or it's going to be okay, and then you leave on vacation and something goes wrong and you don't know what happened and you didn't have a chance to look up sooner, and now you've got to troubleshoot and figure all these things out. And JJ has done a fantastic job. But like, I know this sounds mean-spirited to say, JJ. I am overjoyed that you are experiencing a lot of hardship in this transition period before our great Trey Lyle leaves us at the end of next week. Because it's going to happen, and you're seeing it happen now, and you not only have a supporter around you, and Trey and Melinda and I are all cheering you on, but it's also, you're going to have these oblique moments that pop up. Just wait till we get to Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football and try to get that on our sister station, 100.9, as well as 95.3 FM talk radio for Bedford. Like, this is going to happen. And I know I'm going way off course here in the fast lane. By the way, totally late.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
But this is the reality of what it is. There are so many people who are like, I could host a sports radio show. You know what? Probably could. You probably can host it better than I can. But can you do all the other stuff that JJ has to do with technical stuff and production and getting things ready behind the scenes? Can you sell advertising, which is the bulk of what I do? Because if you can't do all that, you're going to have a tough time cracking in, not just here, but in other spots as well. Everybody has a podcast. There are millions of them. Some of them are really good. Some of them not as much. It's easier to get reps than ever before, but it's harder to stand out. I know I'm going way into the weeds on all of that here in the fast lane, but essentially we come back. We're ready to start in. I would have done a quick detour on my lovely trip to Disney. And again, I don't take a lot of photos with my kids. I've got some from this trip, and a number of them are my wife's photos. I've got some here and there throughout the summer. But by and large, when they're doing something, I try to be present and engaged with them. And I am not where I believe I should be with that, but I believe I am better than I have been at any point with that. And again, part of that goes out to our friends at Central Virginia Counseling and the help that I have gotten in and continue to get on trying to be more present and a better version of myself. Still cannot hear you. So that's where we are. So I would have said more than this right now. And at some point I'll post videos out on social media. Maybe, maybe not. But a lot of it is, as soon as I get done with being around my kids, it's bam, back into the fire of putting out fires, selling advertising. How do we generate revenue, which is the always thing that you wake up every single day. What's that old analogy about you wake up and you're either the gazelle trying to not be eaten or you're the lion trying to eat. But in one way, shape, or form, you're thinking about how you're going to eat or how you're being eaten. That's competition in the media landscape. And I know I've gone way off course here in the fast lane, especially with my trip to Disney. But it is what it is, and it's the reality of the situation. My faith has gotten tested. I believe all these things happen, but I'm not in the category that, oh, once you have faith in God or you're a Christian, life is going to be easy and peachy and things are going to go well. I think it's the biggest disservice that Christian faith does out there is, oh, become a Christian and life's going to get easier. No, it's not. You're going to be better equipped to handle it than ever before, but it's definitely not going to get easier. In fact, it's probably going to get harder because you're going to face a lot more challenges and tests than you ever would have. And if you're not Christian, that's fine. Everybody's free to believe what you want. But if you are, you can probably relate to that. And it's just the reality of everything there. Meanwhile,
after Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
I swear we will get back on the road here in the fast lane. And some Fast Five at Five-ish thoughts before we get ready to link up in about 10 minutes with Liberty softball coach Dr. Dot Richardson. But let's start that right now.
It's time for Fast Five at Five-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
It just went final, but Spain knocking off Belgium 2-1 with a goal in the 88th minute in the round of, is this the round of 8 or still 16? Round of 8. Thank you for that. Duh, because Belgium beat USA in the round of 16. My brain is all over the place, which gets us to the point that we were making about Team USA on the TrostLaw.com Fast Take that dropped earlier today. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to get all of those. The point being this, there are steps up in competition. What we saw from Team USA in the World Cup this year mirrors what I honestly think we saw for Liberty football back in 23 when they went undefeated, won the Conference USA Championship, and then were beaten 45-6 in the Fiesta Bowl in a game that could have been 73-6 if Oregon did not let off the gas in the late third and an entire fourth quarter. Like, it could have been a lot worse if Oregon wanted it to be that way. Let's call a spade a spade. And for snickering JMU Dukes fans, y'all were in the same boat because Oregon was destroying JMU, this past season's Sun Belt Conference champion and undefeated second group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. Before Oregon let off the gas and JMU got the backdoor cover for those that know that particular reference. But the reality is JMU football, Liberty football, Team USA, all had similar stories and situations. They were all in spots where there's a clear level of fan passion that builds upon what was
An unbelievably big step forward season for all three of those entities. But when they met their first real step up in competition, all of a sudden, it just got real. You realized what the gap was between you and everyone else. And Belgium is a lot closer to Spain, as we saw today in a 1-1 contest until the latter portion. You can try to chime in as well, JJ, if we have that. No, sir, we don't. Belgium is a lot closer to Spain than the U.S. was to Belgium. Which, by the way, that goalkeeper for Team USA, I mean, that's one of the all-time horrific gaffes. Because I don't know what the guy's thinking, charging out of the goal box area where you can't dive on the ball anymore and use your arms and hands. And all of a sudden it gets past you and it's just an easy Belgium goal. Like, if a novice soccer fan like myself realizes that's a bad decision, imagine what seasoned professionals actually think and believe. So, where we are with Team USA is they've taken a step forward. JMU football took a step forward, making the college football playoff. Liberty took a step forward, getting to a New Year's Six bowl, although it's harder to get to that level and sustain it and build it than it is to slip back a little bit, as the Liberty Flames of the last couple of seasons. But all of them, when they met their step up in competition, learn that there's a gap they still have to close to get to that higher level of competing, whether it's Liberty competing or JMU competing with the likes of a Boise State, who has routinely made New Year's Six bowls in college football playoff games and been competitive in those, or Team USA, which wants to get to the level like a Norway, which finally broke through, but even some of the others where you get to that point and go, okay, we're now competitive with the likes of a Belgium, a Norway, certainly a Spain and Argentina. Team USA really was not, and that's the reality of it.
Got any luck on the mic yet?
My man!
You got it? Oh,
yes!
Wonderful.
Okay, I blabbed on for too long. What were you going to add about Team USA and my comments about, look, it was a great World Cup run, but when they had to step up in competition to Belgium, it was kind of like Liberty and JMU's football seasons. They had great football seasons, but when they had to take a step up to Oregon in the college football playoff for JMU or the New Year's Six Bowl for Liberty, they realized, good season, but there's a gap between them and the big boys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to recognize that as good as we looked against the likes of like Paraguay and teams of that nature, there's just levels to international soccer. And I know it's hard for Americans to accept, but the European teams are and probably always will be on another level from the U.S. They're playing in Champions League fixtures week in, week out. Those are big games they're playing every week. And that kind of showed in the game against Belgium. A lot of the U.S. players looked nervous. You mentioned the Matt Freeze error in net. That's something I don't think happens when he plays in big games more often.
Yeah, that's a big reality. That's a great point, is you're just used to those higher pressure, higher leverage moments which pop up for Team USA. Look, it's a good run. It's a successful run. I don't mean to take that away.
Absolutely.
I think the takeaways can be both. It was a successful run for Team USA in the World Cup. I think soccer gets more attention now. No, it's not going to overtake football, the football that we discuss often in the fast lane, as the number one sport in America. But it has entered the conversation of being one of the sports that people have a passion about. And with Team USA women being a threat to win it all again in 2027, I believe, is when they'll be playing next year in the Women's World Cup. Positives again, those are all things that go in the direction of soccer. It is vaulted itself into, I think, what's reasonable, you could say, they're not on football's level. I don't think anything is. I think college and pro football and even high school kind of in every area distance themselves, but they could get to the level of a baseball, a level of a hockey, motorsports in this country, golf and tennis, more on that in a moment, where it's at least in the regular conversation for people, if nothing else, when international competitions like this unfold.
Yeah, it's absolutely a step in the right direction for the U.S. national team. And even with the splash hire of Pochettino, going back to that, the fact that the U.S. Soccer Federation is willing to spend on a manager, that shows they're actually trying to make strides in the country. I think if this continues, we will see the growth of popularity. And with as big as our country is, as much as we love sports, if the sport becomes more popular here in the U.S., we're going to become better at it. And maybe we will eventually get to the level of Europe, but just not there yet.
Number 4.
Quicker, like quick work in Wimbledon today. Alexander Sasha Zverev ended the dream season of Arthur Ferry, who, is a Brit who was a wild card and made the Wimbledon semifinals. But again, back to our theme today, the steps up in class competition and what you learn from that
it can be a blessing long-term, but a reality check short-term it was for Ferry today. He got to a tie break, but then lost that 7-0, and then Zverev rolled in the second and third sets today. Jannik Sinner dispatching Novak Djokovic in straight sets today, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. It felt like that was watching and listening to it. I had a blend of that today here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. It felt like that was a clinical performance. Like, people have been wondering, including myself, what version of Jannik Sinner we would get. He had not looked overwhelmingly good up to this point. It looked bad, but it had not looked overwhelming to this point. He was not overwhelming against Novak Djokovic, but he clearly picked his spots and marks, budgeted his energy very well. He was clearly much more effective with break point opportunities. He only converted 3 of them, but 1 in each set is all that he ended up needing. Novak never converted a break opportunity. That's been, by and large, the norm when these two have met outside of the Australian Open earlier this year. Novak never felt like he was a threat to Jannik Sinner, and Sinner is a deserved large favorite against Sasha Zverev. Maybe Zverev gets a set off of him, but Zverev winning the French Open when Sinner went out early and Novak was out as well in a wide open field is much different than having to go through the proverbial belly of the beast. Women's tomorrow, by the way.
Number 3.
I'm excited for Karolina Muchova and Linda Noskova. Muchova has risen from an even money favorite to a pretty clear favorite, relatively speaking. If you're looking at the betting numbers as an indication. I love her game. Muchova is really solid all around. She doesn't play with the level of athleticism of a Coco Gauff or an Iga Swiatek. Doesn't have the power of a Sabalenka or a Rybakina, but she's just a consistent all-around player. Someone who plays that style, I can appreciate that. It's not going to generate wow TV ratings and numbers. Rarely is that actually going to be the case. But where it is possible and where it is cool is that you're going to get a lot more when you see that, which is just good, solid, fundamental tennis for nerds like myself. That's a good thing. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
is this a cutting off your nose to spite your face thing? The Rose Bowl has announced they will not host a college football playoff semifinal over the next, as LeBron would remind us,
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
not 5, but next 6 seasons, because they would prefer to keep the January 1st time slot instead of going into a college football playoff rotation, which might still be late afternoon, but not on New Year's Day. This is the overwhelming beholden to tradition problem. I'm all for evolving. They've evolved to the extent that they had Indiana and Alabama this year, and Alabama's not a big 10 or a Pac-12 team because, I don't think you're going to just be defaulting to the Pac-12 anymore. But, this is a cutting off your nose to spite your face move from the Rose Bowl committee in an era where people are clamoring for fewer of these neutral site games anyway.
Yeah, I don't love the decision here. It just feels like they're committing to something that isn't entirely necessary, like you said, in the interest of tradition. Tradition is great until it gets to a point where it's starting to ruin the way that things should work, and I think that's kind of where we're getting with this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we are as well, and I'll be curious. We'll talk with David Epps of the Peach Bowl committee down in Atlanta. He'll be with us next week at the ACC kickoff, and we'll have that chat. If not live in the Fast Lane, we'll have it on one of our podcast specials. We've got some cool ideas we may be rolling out for that. But I'll be curious about that and how you juggle these, because the Peach Bowl has been much more innovative and willing to embrace change, and this just opens the door for someone like that. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
I'm all for being innovative, but I'm not really sure I like the Big 12's idea of giving and naming rights to call it a certain energy drink. Big 12 football presented by an insert energy drink. I'm just going to call it the Big 12. I'm not going to call a presenting sponsor for somebody that is not a sponsor in the Fast Lane. Do you think people at a casual conversation, at church, at the restaurant, wherever it is, are going to be calling it now Monster Energy Big 12 football? Or, I beep out the sponsor that doesn't pay. Or are they going to just call it the Big 12 for football and basketball? I think we know the answer to this.
Yeah, I can't even imagine a single scenario where I'd be talking with someone about football and they'd say, oh, do you watch the Big 12 presented by fill in the blank? I'm not going to say it. It just feels a bit silly. It's like we see across all sports, there's more sponsors being put on jerseys. Sponsorship is just becoming more and more present in sports, and this is just another example of it.
Here's the thing. It's basically, it equates to, it's a $20 million a year annual deal where they are, the presenting sponsor of football and basketball as in men's and women's basketball seasons. Plus, they'll have logo placement on all the surfaces of those schools, as well as Big 12 championship game events, tournaments, conference championships, the like. And they will, be the entitlement sponsor, as we mentioned a moment ago. And they'll have jersey patch sponsorship, but schools can have another jersey patch sponsor as well. Here's my one caveat and qualm with that. That's all you could get, just about $1 million a year per school. Again, you're going to have your BYUs and Texas Techs that probably think they can get more. You're going to have your Iowa States that may be lucky to get this. But if anything, you might be furthering the divide of the haves and the have-nots in that conference, similar to what we've seen in the ACC.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoa, hold on.
Yep, we're playing with stuff here in the fast lane. It got a little echoey for those that are wondering on my microphone end. But we're getting through all of that because, we're working through these technical challenges that popped up unexpectedly the last couple of days. But essentially, the point being made is the Big 12 and their sponsorship, I applaud the ingenuity. I'm sure other conferences will go off further in it. If nothing else, it kind of provides a benchmark for what other bigger name brands, schools, and conferences will ask for and seek. But I think that's the gist of where the strength of this lies, is somebody's going to copy it and just usurp it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to see. I think everything you said is completely right. Jersey sponsorships are just everywhere. I think they're across every sport except the NFL. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So, I mean, we see them everywhere. If you're watching sports, you're watching commercials basically at this point. And you're right, teams are going to continue to do what other teams do. But $1 million for a jersey patch does feel a little low, to your point.
Yes, indeed. It does. Meanwhile, when we return in the fast lane, 2-part chat for Faith Fridays with Dr. Dot Richardson, Liberty softball coach. Part 1, looking back at the 2026 season. Part 2, more in depth on her Christian faith. They'll probably blend together, but we're going to try to split the atom, if you will, when we return here in the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app and Asset Smart Speaker Open VTRN Sports.
Perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terrybw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Makadu for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Market Dues.
We'll see you at the dues.
Holes for Heroes is back at the 29th Annual Boonesboro Fire and Rescue Benefit Golf Tournament. Your support goes beyond teeing off Monday, July 20th at the Boonesboro Country Club. It's also sponsoring a hole or lunch, because however you support the event, you're actually helping with key services like continuing education and training, building maintenance, plus gear and equipment, including the new fire truck that's currently being built. Start your support now at BoonesboroFireRescue.org. That's BoonesboroFireRescue.org.
From the blue waters of the Chesapeake Bay to the hills of Tennessee, listen to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle on the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
We could even transition one of our Fast Five at 5-ish subjects, which if you missed, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts in audio and video form, to a discussion with our next guest, softball coach for the Liberty Flames, joining us on a Faith Fridays edition here in the Fast Lane. I truly mean this when I say that we are blessed, and we hope blessings are being bestowed on Dr. Dot Richardson, who is with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, blessings to you and yours I hope and pray that things are well with you. This past season, and we will get to the Faith Fridays angle with even more in depth on the Christian faith as we progress in our conversation. But this past season for the Liberty Flames softball team, what did you learn about your Christian faith through a season where it wasn't bad, but it's coming off a hard to replicate 2025 epic season?
Well, the first thing I learned, hi, everybody. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for having me. The first thing I learned is that God is faithful. I've known that for quite a while, because even in the trials when we're struggling, which this year definitely was, you come out good knowing that God is faithful, and he is just, there's tests that we go through, and our tests become our testimony. So this past season, we did not have the season that everyone expected, mostly that we ourselves expected. And that is probably why we struggled. The team, after coming off of a historic year previously in the 25 season, being the number one team in regionals that has never been accomplished in the history of collegiate softball, to be able to do that, to get to super regionals, falling short of the World Series though, and expecting to be at the World Series this past season. It was so much for a lot of the players, and it was hard to watch them struggle with that and the mental side of things. But there was a lot of blessings through it.
Outside of prayer, which we do all the time, what are you and what were you able to do as a coach to guide your team through those struggles and the blend of helping them, but also knowing when to let them try to work through those and figure them out?
Well, that's the balance, isn't it? That's the challenge. And so what we do is we're making sure that we focus on the things that we recognize. For example, some lack of confidence that started, some just such expectation that it froze people, that some players just realize, wait a minute, I'm not living up to my own expectation, let alone the expectation of the program. And so that lets us dive in deeper. And how do we dive in? From sports psychology, that's a big one. But the other one is for them to recognize what their true identity is. And your identity is not in the sport. It is not in your performance of the sport. It's not in the record, the wins and losses of the sport. Your identity is in Jesus Christ.
Dr. Dot Richardson, Liberty Flames softball coach, with us here on a Faith Fridays edition here in the Fast Lane. Do you find that that's hard for players to understand and grasp, or is it easier for your softball players to understand and grasp the balance of preparing every day with the intent and the goal of winning, but not letting that preparation and certainly the games and the results be their identity, because it's beyond just the game itself that is their identity?
Yeah, the hard part is, you would think at the largest Christian university in the world that it would be easy to recognize my true identity is in God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. What does he say about you? We are beautifully and wonderfully made. You're a child of God when you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that you know that he died on the cross for our sins that had to be paid, the perfect sacrificial lamb who died, gave his life up and died, and then rose again to overcome the curse that man put on themselves and Satan, which is death. We're not meant to die, right? We are not meant to die. And we brought it on by being disobedient in the Garden of Eden. And but what's hard is that I recognize, no matter where our faith is, we always need to try and get closer to the Lord. And things that happen in sport, and I love how you guys are talking about sports. What happens in sports is a lot of life lessons, but the biggest life lesson is really who is giving you life and who do you want to glorify. And so when you perform to the best of your ability, when you train to the best of your ability, when you strive to be the best that you can be, that honors the Lord, because he's given you those gifts and the opportunities to display those talents and those gifts. It doesn't matter what the outcome It matters. Are you present? Are you in it? And that is what the whole lesson this year was. And the beauty was this, that we were able to perform the way I knew that we could in the last few weeks of the season. And everyone was actually starting to believe, right? And they were believing, and now they're executing and coming together doing it. And that was exciting to see. And in fact, you guys, our last game at the conference tournament, we had beat Jacksonville State to put them in the losers bracket, and they came back to this one winner take all championship game, which was Jacksonville State again. And we were up 4-0. I mean, this was our game. I'm still shocked today that we didn't pull it off. We lost. We lost 4-5. But the point was, though, that I could see the talent that our team had, but it taught me so much, too, about you have to have the mindset, and we have to be prepared mentally as well as physically and emotionally. And so the blessing is this, you guys. Those that are returning don't ever want to experience that again. And when we in life, we fall short, we're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God. As a believer in Christ, we recognize our sin, we recognize our disobedience, and we don't want it to happen again. And I'm not saying that not playing well is a sin at all. I'm just saying, as you look at the lessons that life, and the Lord is teaching us through sport, is that's one of them, that always seek him first. Give it to him, trust him. And when we do that, we're going to play with a lot more freedom, and in our lives we'll be a lot more free than in chains.
Dr. Dot Richardson, softball coach, Liberty University, with us on our Faith Fridays edition here in the Fast Lane, where each Friday, each week, we try to talk with at least one guest about various elements of both sports and faith and blending those elements together. Dr. Dot Richardson, one of the common themes that we've noticed with Liberty softball, and it bore itself out to a large extent this year, it wasn't the end result you've gotten in prior years, but a very challenging start to the season in non-conference play in particular. Took a while to get going in Conference USA, and ultimately it came up short for the Conference USA Championship. How much of that philosophy, though, is something that you envision sticking around with your program so that your players are prepared in the old trial by fire and testing their faith in not just God and in Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, but also in the process and each other from the very beginning of the season?
Well, coming off of the successful season we had in 25, everyone's expectation was, as we started with this tough schedule that I always do for the first couple weeks, is that they're prepared and they're ready to go, and they were prepared. But when we didn't win right away, they started thinking, are we going to be as good as we were last year? Or we're not as good as we were last year. And I don't think we should compare ourselves to the past. I think we have to learn lessons from the past, but we have to learn those lessons and bring them forward with a positive mindset and positive self-talk, and the team coming together, realizing why was it successful the previous year. But we had some really good performances right there. Tennessee, off one of the number one top pitchers, I should say, in the country, scored on the first inning. We were up 1-0. We looked at Oregon. We're ahead of Oregon going into the sixth inning. So we had our glimpses that I looked at as being very positive. But when you have a negative self-talk or a negative comparison to yourself or the team, then that's going to hold you back. And that's what took us a long time to get over with. And that confidence had to be built back amongst ourselves. And I was really excited, like I said, that at the end, those last 2.5 weeks, it was really awesome to see. And it was a belief, man, we were ripping the ball. We had Camden Anders in the pitching circle that she said enough is enough. And she stepped up and she did it as a lefty pitcher. So proud of her. It was just, there were people, 2 freshmen, Macy Strickland and then Danny Lee. They just stepped right up and said, I'm not going to listen to the negative. I'm going to go for it. And they earned starting roles and did phenomenal. It was just so many positive things. But the reality is, how can you prevent that from happening in the future? and meaning starting off so slowly for over half the season. And it's because have these expectations of, one, I get the opportunity to use the gifts that God has given me to play a sport that I'm passionate about and show the world the gifts that he has given to glorify him doing it. You do that right away, and you want to do it as a team where everyone's rowing in the same direction at the same time. When you do that, awesome things happen. And I believe this coming season is going to be a huge spark this past year for this coming year. It's to really, no pun intended, to light it up and let the flame shine even brighter.
Dr. Dodd Richardson, you are always welcome to use puns here in the Fast Lane. We do not shy away from it. So you're always welcome to drop those. From last year's roster and returning players and players you've brought in with the transfer portal, you mentioned being confident in the position where you are. What were you and your staff seeking, not just in terms of new additions via the transfer portal in high school, but also players who wanted to come back that would be priorities, not just for them, but for Liberty softball and the meshing of those two?
Well, what's exciting is we have 8 freshmen coming in. And these freshmen, I would say, are a good 4 stars, if not higher. This is the strongest freshman class we have ever had since I've been at Liberty. Next year's incoming class is going to be very strong as well. We took only 2 from the transfer portal. I needed to have another pitcher, and we were able to get Dakota Redmond from Radford. She was a pitcher at Radford, throws in the high 60s. She actually beat us, and she had some really good performances against Tennessee and others. She turned down Duke, UNC, South Carolina, and Oregon, and Ohio State, and selected Liberty, and Ole Miss. So she was highly sought after, and she is her faith is very strong and settled with us, which is awesome. Then we brought in another utility player who can catch as well, and that's Mally Groves. So we only took 2 from the transfer portal because I have such a strong class coming in. So we'll be young, but we have some returners I mentioned. That was the Danny Lee and the Macy Strickland that were freshmen now that have a year of starting under their belt. And then we have our seniors, more experienced seasoned players from Paige Dorr. And then we've also got Savannah Jesse, Alexia Carrasquillo. We got Ella Fox coming back, who were starters. So it's really going to be a great mix, I think. And it's one of those things that will be exciting with just a new energy that's going to infuse the team.
I'll wrap it up on this, and then we'll break and we'll ask even more about this past season and the last seasons at Liberty being a growth point for Dr. Dodd Richardson's faith journey. We'll split this into 2 parts here on our Faith Fridays chat with the Liberty softball coach here in the Fast Lane. But the departure of Kalen Yoder, and I know this is an overused cliche, but sometimes it can be a win-win for someone who may benefit from a change of scenery while also a program. You hate to lose someone of that talent, but if someone would benefit from a change of scenery, then it could be the best for the program to allow that person to find the needed change of scenery as well. Is that a reasonable assessment for the love I'm sure you have for Kalen Yoder, but also maybe the support that you and your program have for her pursuing a different path at Arizona?
Yeah, I think the transfer portal has got a good role for certain people. Originally, the transfer portal was so we didn't have to keep calling different schools compliances to get permission to talk to players, which is great. When they're on the portal, you can talk to them. That was the main reason for the portal. And it's usually for players that are not getting an opportunity to play as much as they want. But then it's morphed, as you see, into quarterbacks jumping in to get more money, pitchers, whatever it might be. But I think for Yoder, the key is, first of all, she loves the Lord. It was time for her to have a new start. And she only pitched 15 innings for us this past year. And obviously, we were hoping for a lot more. But she was going through a lot. And we were right there with her and supporting her. And in fact, I was not surprised that she felt she needed a change. And I just wish her all the best. It's awesome that she's been able to find a home. And so, this new start for her could be really great. But she will be missed, of course. We love her very dearly. And also, we have others that went in the portal. Jemiah Byram, also, she's going to be a teammate with Yoder again, I heard, at Arizona. So, they've got each other there, which is great. So I think that'll be good. But the big key is some other transfers. They wanted to be closer to home. One of them in Southern California, and another one just wanted more pitching time. And so it was good for her. And then the others that are not on the team from last year, they wanted to just give in the sport, move on with their future, whether it's to get married, whether it's to start a career, advance their education. So it all ends up working good. I trust the Lord. He brings us those players he wants us to have. Hopefully we impact them in positive ways. We help them move on. And also, hopefully, the most important thing, help them grow their relationship with the Lord even more. And I help a lot of them in the transfer portal. Coaches, we know each other. We get calls all the time asking about them. And you definitely want someone to play for you that wants to play for you, that wants to be at Liberty. And, I just trust the Lord. He's trustworthy.
Indeed he is. Dr. Dot Richardson with us here in the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, if you can hang on there's a response that you just gave that has given us fodder for our next question, which we'd love to address in just a moment if you're cool hanging on.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Dr. Dot Richardson with us here in the Fast Lane, and we'll ask about that when we return on the VTRN Sports app. And if you miss anything, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, where you listen to podcasts.
Big transitions feel like big hurdles. That's why Central Virginia Counseling has 2 dynamic 6-week summer groups for rising 6th and 9th graders packed with essential life skills. Each week targets a new skill for success, tools like organization, time management, task initiation, anxiety reduction techniques, and skills for making friends and communicating well. Through peer connection and expert guidance, students will gain tools to feel capable, connected, and ready for day one. Visit us on Timberlake Road or Wigington Road in Lynchburg or at centralvirginiacounseling.com to learn more.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
End zone, light them up, touchdown Liberty.
The atmosphere at a game is amazing. It is like family.
I've been a season ticket holder for 14 seasons. The atmosphere is electric.
On the near sideline.
It's an experience. You look forward to every week. I like the pageantry, the band.
The pride of knowing that this is our university.
2026 Flames football season tickets are on sale now. Get yours at lufootball.com.
Learning for your family isn't just a school year thing. This summer, teach smart money habits that last a lifetime. Open a youth or basic savings account at Farmers Bank and help build a strong financial future from the start. It's simple, safe, and a great way to turn small savings into big opportunities. Stop by our Timberlake Road location or any Farmers Bank branch and open an account today, because good habits start early, and we're here to help them grow.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Continuing our chat with Liberty softball coach Dr. Dot Richardson on our Faith Fridays edition of the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, first of all, appreciate you hanging out with us through that timeout. And if anybody missed our first part of the chat, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however they choose to consume podcasts in audio or video form. We picked up, though, when we ended our chat with you discussing the role that you play in helping former Liberty Flames entering the transfer portal find their next spot at a different university. Was it always in your personality to be that type of assistant to helping them land the best spot, even if it's not with your program? Or has your faith and walk with Christ helped strengthen you in that task of making sure you find what's best for someone, whether it's with the Liberty Flames softball program or in another venture or program?
Well, as a believer in Jesus Christ, right, we want to model him, and it's love God and love people. So we're all different, and that is a good thing. And God loves us all. So the question is, how can I have that servant heart to not only coach well, to be a good mentor, but also to help them through life? And the transfer portal is part of it. And it's, we have exit meetings and we talk and throughout the year as well. And we kind of foresee what's happening, and we try and help, and we're there for them. And whatever the reasons are, I'll ask a lot of them, when they say they want to get in the transfer portal and they give the reason, it's like, anything I can do to help, I'm here to help.
For you as well, within building a program and being an assistant in that process and journey, what value is there to having a faith-based recruiting process with players, knowing what your beliefs are, they know what your beliefs are, you know what their Christian faith looks like, so that when you're in these tougher conversations, I would imagine the Christian faith that you and your players have breeds a different level of trust and makes it a lot easier, not to put down other programs, but truthfully, it may be better than a program that's not based on faith.
Absolutely. I think that's a great comment. And for us, it's all about, we have to build trust. And if you're trusted, you can get a lot of things happen. If you're not trusted, so how do you lose trust? You have to, whatever you say you're going to do, you got to do it, right? If you say you're a Christian, be a Christian. It's, words are cheap. It has to be our action, right? And that's what they're watching. They're watching, how do you respond to adversity? How do you respond as a coach when things don't go your way? How do you respond when the team isn't playing well? And that's what I always pray about, Lord. Help give me some wisdom, even if it's 1,000% of King Solomon. Give me that wisdom that I can show you, to show Christ in what I do. And hopefully that example will lead others to grow their faith, right? And even direct their faith, and then help them to share their faith. When they see a coach that's bold, when they see a person bold in their belief and their faith in Jesus Christ, it empowers them as well.
Were you always the type of person that could pray for discernment and wisdom, or were there moments, and if so, what were they, that helped shape you from someone that doesn't just pray for an outcome that you selfishly want, but for the discernment and wisdom, which may bring you the outcome that you and your heart want as well, and in your flesh, but may contradict with that, but is ultimately better for his purpose?
Yeah, there's a lot of examples through when I was a competitor and I was, let's say 4 for 4, and my 5th at bat, I got out and I was furious. And a teammate of mine goes, "You got to be kidding me." I go, "What?" And she said, "Some of us don't even have a single hit." And it made me realize, wow, there's another time, when I made an error, we lost a game, and I blame myself. And my dad was like, "Hey, you either do it or you don't do it." And you didn't do it. So I was like, "You're right. I have to get better. I have to learn from this. Just because I make a mistake, just because we lose, it doesn't mean I'm a big failure, right? I just got to continue to lose and get better. I got to continue to grow and learn and get better." The other thing as a coach is some actions, with umpires. They have helped me so much, because I could tend to lose get very angry with some poor calls that you might get. And I realize that is not the look of Christ. And I can't be like that. I have to be professional, and I want to be that way. So people look and say, that's how to do it, and that's how to do it right. And that is a way to glorify the Lord. But the hardest one, you guys, is when we lose. When we lose in life, we feel, when we fail, that we are a failure. But the reality is our true character comes through adversity. Even Paul tells us that. So through adversity and challenges in our lives, how do we handle those things? Do we give up? Do we scream? Do we blame someone else? Do we not hold ourselves accountable? And I realize your true character comes out in defeat. And so it's easy to be a winner. It's easy when you win, isn't it? But when you lose, boy, how do you handle that? And you need to handle it as a pro. And what do I mean by a pro for Christ? Like, do it the way that Jesus, would want you to handle it. And that is, okay, congratulations to the victor. And we are always victorious in Christ. And we're going to learn to get even better to give him the glory. Win or lose.
People will give negative commentary toward today's college athlete. But have you found out that there are some athletes that struggle with that, but there are also some that are more receptive to that? And I would imagine you see them grow in their time at Liberty, in their faith and in the ability to win or lose like a pro?
Yeah, I think I told you before, it's not a coincidence that the logo on an Apple cell phone is an apple with a bite out of it. Could have just been an apple, but it's an apple with a bite out of it. And that was the original sin, right? Signifies the original sin, the forbidden fruit that Adam and Eve bit from. So I'm throwing it out there to say that temptation is in that phone. It's in the social media with the TikTok, the Instagram, you can name them all, right? The X, all of these things, these kids are on their phone and in these apps so much that they are more concerned about what the world thinks of them, the acceptance of other people of them, than they are of Christ. And that's the problem, that we should not be living our lives to try and please other people. We should live our lives to please Jesus Christ. We should look up to the audience of one, and everybody around us should be able to recognize where that all comes from. And that is my job as a coach. It's easy to teach hitting and fielding and throwing and pitching and base running and strategies of the game. But what is the game of life about? We're born and we're going to die. There will be a group that will be raptured, but it's after death, the gateway to eternity. Are we going to be with God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit? Or are we going to be in the lake of fire with Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet? And we got to get real, people, because it is real. We are living in biblical times, and it's not a coincidence. So we need to be alert, and we need to be ready. And this is the most attacked generation in the history of the world to date. When you look at what they are going through, from mental health to all of these other things with social media, and it's affecting them. And we have to be solid for them and direct them biblical advice into Christ.
Amen. Dr. Dot Richardson preaching it today here on a Faith Fridays edition of the Fast Lane. And it can either be the biggest restrictor you ever believe, your Christian faith, or it can be the biggest point of freedom and totally reframe in a positive way. I'd like to think that the latter has been true of me, and hopefully I've been able to provide a testimony, although certainly not to the great degree of Dr. Dot Richardson, who has done that for us today in the Fast Lane. Dr. Dot, thank you as always. We love catching up with you each year. We're grateful for it and appreciative now that we could rope it into our new feature, Faith Fridays.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm here with my husband, Bob. We're actually going for his birthday weekend in Washington, D.C., so it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we can make the time to make this happen. You just give me a call.
Indeed. Prayers for safe travels for Dr. Dot Richardson and her husband. That will do it for us today in the Fast Lane. We made it, JJ. Technical issues and all. We made it through today. Now next week, we're going to need a lot of prayers and blessings at the ACC football kickoff. In the meantime, tomorrow, Brewers and Pirates, 3:30 Major League Baseball game. We'll have Sunday Night Baseball as well. And then next week, here we go. The end of summer ACC Media Days begin next Wednesday. We'll have more Monday in the Fast Lane and covering the Commonwealth. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We're back Monday at 5. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.